Welcome to the Robert Wenzel Show. Please stand by for Robert Wenzel.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Robert Wenzel Show. I'm Robert Wenzel. My guest today is Moshe Feiglin, a member of the Knesset and part of the Likud party in Israel. December of 2005, he ran for the Likud chairmanship, and he got 12.5% of the votes. In 2004, he ran in the primaries, and he doubled his previous vote to 23.4%, as compared to Netanyahu's 72.8%. On November 26th, Feiglin won enough votes in the Likud primary to place 15th on the list of Likud MKs, and he is now a member of the Knesset, as I previously mentioned. Moshe, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's actually late in the evening here when we're recording this. I tell you, I find a number of your positions in doing my research here quite interesting. First of all, you are not in favor of foreign aid from the United States. Can you tell me what your views are on that?
Definitely. I see no reason why Americans are standing online for jobs. The economy situation in America should give any economical aid to Israel, which is in a much better economical situation today.
Okay. Also, you've got a position with regard to Iran that seems to be different, that a lot of people in the United States would get the impression that everybody in Israel thinks. So can you explain to me what your position is there?
Yes. I think that the Israeli strategy to make the nuclear weapon that's being developed in Iran an international problem instead of the Israeli problem, just Israeli problem, even though it is definitely true, but it's the wrong attitude from Israel. Israel should see that as its own problem and as a problem that should be solved by Israel and only by Israel. The situation that the Jew had to be dependent on other nations' mercy to survive was supposed to be ended by the creation of the State of Israel. And when somebody in the world, definitely a head of a state, is trying to kill the Jews again, today it's hiding behind the name of Zionists. The anti-Semitism is hiding under the name of Israel. We just have a problem with Israel, not with the Jews, as Ahmadinejad says. But it's the same hatred in a different way. I think that from a historical point of view and a real strategic point of view, Israel should have understood that we have to deal with it as our problem and to solve it by ourselves.
Okay. Now, how popular of a view is that in Israel?
It is not popular.
Okay.
It's always easier to try to lean on some big brothers behind the ocean.
Right.
But the bottom line is, it is our problem, and it will remain our problem.
Yeah. Who do you think is controlling the ship? Is the United States behind the scenes pushing Israel in certain directions, or do you think Israel is sort of nudging the U.S. to be more aggressive in the Middle East in favor of Israel?
I think both answers are right. It's some kind of dialectic relationship. Yes, Israel is pushing America to do its share. America is pushing Israel not to do what it's supposed to do. The bottom line is that nothing is really being done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you're part of the Likud party, which is the party which Benjamin Netanyahu comes from. How were you able to get 25% of the vote there? How did you do that? I mean, was that following already there and you just sort of made the points that were clear, or are you building a following?
These are definitely real numbers and might be even representing more that were a bit afraid to show their views. Look, I'm not in a war against Netanyahu. Netanyahu is the head of my party, and I'll do whatever I can to help Likud and help Netanyahu create his government and deal with the situation in Israel that is not simple at all. We need a strong government, and I'm definitely going to help as much as I can. However, my views are becoming more and more popular because simply I think I'm saying a simple truth that most of the Likud members I identify with. I'm planning to run again until I will win, God willing, and lead the Likud and lead the state of Israel at one point or the other.
So are there any other members of the Knesset that hold views similar to yours, or are you just one man standing alone in the Knesset?
Sometimes people don't know what to think until somebody comes and gives them the simple truth. So in a potential yes, the answer is definitely yes. It's like the story of the Emperor New Clothes. When the little kid said the truth, suddenly everybody realized that the king is naked and said it also. It is similar here. Right now, as usually, most of people looking to the wind direction and basically asking, what should they think now? And not trying to do it, to use this tool God gave us behind our forehead by themselves. But once somebody is saying the truth in a clear way, in a logical way, then you see more and more people come out and saying it. And I think that will be the process that we're going to see in Israel in the coming years. More and more people start talking in the name of their identity, in their name of their freedom, in their name of their basic reason to be Jews and to be in the land of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does the media give you much attention in Israel? Do television stations interview you at all, or are you quoted in the newspapers? Or
I think I will not be exaggerate if I'll say that on the second circle, at least, I mean, the first circle that's getting the attention is the Prime Minister and those who are doing negotiation of creating a government. But in the second circle, I'm probably number one.
Okay. Now, as far as your relationship with Netanyahu, when you ran against him, did he say negative things about you? What was the race when the two of you ran for chairmanship of the Likud?
The last race was in a good spirit. No bad words were saying from both sides, not from Netanyahu about me, of course not from me about Netanyahu. I'm not running against the person. I'm running from a positive point of view. I see election as a market of ideas. And when election comes, I open up my store, and everybody is welcome to decide if they like my merchandise. Okay, so that's the way I see it. It's not against. It's in favor of an alternative that I offer, and whoever wants to choose it is welcome to do. Once somebody is winning, we're all behind him.
Now, do you think Iran is a real threat to Israel? I mean, could Iran hurt Israel in any point at this time?
Look, a nuclear weapon is always a threat. It's a serious threat, for sure. And Netanyahu is definitely right. It's not a threat only on Israel. I mean, they have the capability to deliver this this wonderful thing, the atomic bomb, to Europe, to Russia, to the entire region. There's a tremendous problem over here. However, it's definitely aiming, first of all and above all, on Israel. But I see the Iranian threat in a much wider and deeper way, and I'll tell you what I mean. When, about 9 years ago, 9 years ago, when Ahmadinejad started to talk about the destruction of the Jewish state, that was a point where the whole world was amazed of his chutzpah. I understand the chutzpah becoming an English word in America.
Yeah, we get that.
Okay. So the whole world was actually waiting to see what the Israelis' reaction will be. Because everybody knows that Israel was established on top of a mountain of ashes of 6 million Jews in Europe. And when somebody 60 years later comes and head of a state comes and again talking in those terms that Hitler spoke on the Reichstag during the 30s against the Jewish people, talking about a destruction and that kind of speak, I mean, everybody was waiting to see an immediate reaction of Israel. Now, the difference and the reason why the Israeli state was established was that our existence will not be dependent anymore on other countries. During World War II, I mean, and I'm talking now about the memory, I assume it's not so comfortable to Americans and British, but the Americans and the British bombers flew above Auschwitz and did not throw a simple bomb to stop the killing process during the war. So we have to have our ability to take care of ourselves. And nothing was done by Israel. And when nothing was done then, 10 years ago, when Ahmadinejad started to speak like that, a little question mark, which became bigger and bigger, about the legitimacy of the basic existence of a Jewish state in the world, a question mark like that started to rise above the world. I mean, today, in Western universities, in London and in New York, people asking themselves, does the Jews have the right to have their own state in the world? So I think I'm giving you a wide answer. I think the danger that Israel is suffering today from Iran is much bigger than the immediate threat of the bomb. It's a danger of losing its legitimacy to be. Because when you're not willing to protect yourself, when you're leaning on others, this question is starting to rise. There's a reason why this question mark is rising in the last 10 years, and I think there's a correlation between the delegitimization of the Israeli existence in the Western world and the fact that we did not deal immediately with the Iranian threat.
How would you have dealt immediately with the Iranian threat?
I think that Ahmadinejad broke all the rules, and therefore we should not deal with a story like Ahmadinejad according to the rules. I think that from a historical point of view, everybody understands today that if the world, if the Western world, free world, would have somehow got rid of Hitler before he became what he was, when he started to threat the world, history would have looked different. The fact is that we think that the life of criminals that become leaders is some kind holy, but the life of millions of soldiers and civilians killing later is a fair price. I think that we should change that. I think that instead of putting a question mark above the Israeli state to survive, we should put a question mark above the right of people like Ahmadinejad themselves to keep on breathing the same air on the same globe together with us.
Okay, now, his term is going to be running out shortly. I mean, do you think he did anything comparable to Hitler in his term as president of Iran?
Look, it is not about the person. Whoever is the symbol, whoever is leading the threat on Israel should watch his own back. That is the solution. We should not danger now lives of soldiers in trying to get into the bunkers where they create the bomb. We should not get into big wars. Those who getting us into these trouble should be out of the game. And it can be done easy. That should be the target.
So you're talking about you would be in favor of an assassination of Ahmadinejad?
Definitely, yes. I think it's the most moral thing to do. I think it's the most effective thing to do. I think that the whole way of thinking is wrong. There is no reason why so many lives of innocent soldiers and civilians will be taken away, while the real criminals who will be putting us in all this danger will feel free to do whatever they want.
So what if he would be assassinated and he's replaced by someone that has the same views as him? What would you recommend then?
When you're talking about dictatorship like Iran, when you're talking about these kind of states, you have to understand that in those states, the regime is much more important than the state. The difference between a democracy and a dictatorship is that in a democracy, the state comes first, and then the parties. In dictatorship, it's different. It's the party that comes first. When you aiming on the regime, you solve the problem. When the regime understands, and we in the West definitely have the technology and the ability to aim those people personally and aim against and put the regime in danger, not the state. We should not fight against the states. We should fight against the political regime, the political parties, or the one party that runs it. Once they will feel the immediate threat, I am sure that they will stop. So in other words, to answer your question, it's not just Ahmadinejad. Everybody that continue on that direction should feel they're under a threat. America did something similar with Gaddafi, by the way, for a while, and it's definitely succeeded. That is the way to deal with those countries.
Yeah. What do you mean America did that with Gaddafi? Were they assassinating people under Gaddafi when he was taken out?
I'm talking about a few years before. Gaddafi had, at one point, before he was finished, he got from the Americans the message that he can remain in his place but behave differently, or remove physically from his position by the Americans, and definitely immediately choose the first option and become a good boy, or some kind of a good boy with the West. That is the way Ahmadinejad should be dealt with.
If Israel launched a preemptive strike against Iran, would you object to that? What would your reaction be to that?
I think that Israel has to strike against Iran.
I'm talking about an attack on the nuclear reactors.
Yes, I will definitely agree with that, and I'm saying more than that. It has to be done not only to destroy the atomic bomb, but give ourselves back the position of those that will take their future by their own hands. The real danger that I see, stronger danger, wider danger than the atomic bomb, is the delegitimization. So this strike is important not only to solve the technical problem, but put us back in the right place in the world conscience.
Right. I understand. Now, if Israel would launch such a preemptive strike, would you at that point be in favor of the United States getting involved, or do you want to keep the United States completely out of it?
I rather that the United States will be completely out of it.
And that's simply because you feel every nation should take care of itself and handle its own problems? Is that it? Or?
To be honest with you, I don't trust the Americans. I think it's about interests. When we're getting so-called help from the Americans, it always comes with a tremendous pressure to give away our land to the Arabs. It comes right after. You can see it historically. And I don't want to get to this pressure afterwards. Can I add something about this subject, if you don't mind?
Sure, please do.
I have a personal hard feelings, very hard feelings, about the fact that the United States of America, which I appreciate very much, I have to say that first. I appreciate the American nation. I appreciate the concept of freedom that the people of America and the established of America brought to the world, and all the good that your nation did to the world, to people all over the world, and the ability of people to escape to your place and have their free life and freedom. After saying that, I want to get back to the point. The fact that America is holding for 27 years a Jew in a prison, I'm talking about Jonathan Pollard, holding an Israeli that gave information to an ally. Usually when somebody is getting caught on that kind of problem, he's getting like 4 years in jail, 3 years in jail. The fact that you're holding Jonathan Pollard for 27 years is a kind of, let's face it, it's a pure anti-Semitism. There are tens, maybe more, of American spies in Israel every day on the whole year. Israel could have put in jail hundreds of American spies that are being here and did not do it. I urge you, those Americans that hears me, I think the fact that you're taking a Jew, holding him in prison against any kind of justice you can think of. He did not harm America. He just saved Israel with information that Israel should have gotten from the Americans anyhow, according to all the agreements that it had with America. Saved Israel from the nuclear ability that Iraq developed at that time. The fact that you're still putting this person in jail for 27 years, not letting him out, is a kind of a black shadow, black cloud above America, about the morality of your nation. I urge you to put pressure on President Obama to let this unbelievable man, Jonathan Pollard, let him out. I visited him in jail already 5 times. He's in a terrible position. If you will not let him go, he's going to die in jail. And this black cloud I was talking about is going to be permanent. Please stop this immoral situation and let our brother, Jonathan Pollard, go. We're waiting for him in Israel to live his last years in the promised land, where him and his wife can at least be for the last moments together.
I'm not a big follower of what the United States government generally does with spies, but my impression has always been that they do get very, very long sentences, and that's, I think, how the average American would think about it. And I don't think they would think about it in terms of anti-Semitism. I mean, that's just a gut feel. Again, I haven't done studies of other spies, but my sense is...
Excuse me for interrupting. I can just, in any other similar case, people were sent to 3-4 years. In worst case, much worse cases, people will get sent out in less than 5 years. I cannot think of a different answer than that.
Yeah, Moshe, are you talking about in the United States or other countries?
In the United States.
You can cite me examples of spies that have gotten shorter sentences than Pollard?
I suggest that you hit Jonathan Pollard in getting to the website that deal with that, and you'll see immediately all the examples, and you'll see immediately that were the head of the CIA at the time saying the same thing that I just said. The American officials already saying the same thing.
Moshe, I'm not that familiar with the history of prison sentences for spies.
I will very much appreciate if you get into the subject and search.
It sounds kind of interesting. I will, but I'll tell you that the general impression I think that Americans get is that just spies in general probably spend their life in jail here. But let's move on. What's your view on neoconservatives here in the United States?
My feeling is the tremendous big part of America that is definitely feeling a common views that we're sharing together, Israel and America. I think that this amazing thing that was created behind the ocean in America, the concept of freedom, that basically leans on the Bible, on the Old Testimony's values, the concept of freedom. We're sharing it. There's a lot of people who love Israel and America. I know it. A lot of people from a religious point of view that believes in words. Those who curse will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed, as God said to Abraham. We're definitely sharing common views. It makes sense. It just fits to my ideology and the way I think. I think the problem is not in America. I think the problem is in Israel. Israelis should stick to their own identity. Don't be afraid of who they are and what the Jewish message should be, and see the state of Israel as a tool to complete the journey of the Jewish people, to fix the world in the kingdom of God, to be a light to the nation, a moral light to the whole nation, to have a positive message that comes from Zion. I think that inspire a lot of people in the United States, and should be a message that Israelis should not be afraid to connect to themselves here in the state of Israel.
Okay, I just want to get clear so I understand. As far as neoconservatives, are you familiar with that movement in the United States and the people that might be involved in it or not?
I'm not in close touch. I'll be happy to learn more. I spoke in general of my feeling when I visited America. What are my feelings?
Yeah, Moshe, I'm just trying to understand because they tend to be very well known here in the United States. They tend to be on the media a lot, and I was just curious as to how much play they get in Israel itself. For example, are you familiar with Alan Dershowitz?
Yes, of course.
Okay. How about Bill Kristol? Do you know who Bill Kristol is?
No.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. Let me move on. We're going over our time, but, this is a fascinating interview, Moshe, so if you have a few more minutes, I'd appreciate it if you could stay on. I've got a question now. You've got a specific plan with regard to permanent residencies and what you would do with Palestine and the occupied regions and all that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Everybody asks themselves, what is going to be the solution with Palestinians? Well, the question is a solution to what? What is the problem? The answer that everybody giving themselves is that they want their own state. Well, I'm sorry to destroy this assumption. It is not true. First of all, when we're coming to solve a problem, we have to put a foundation of truth. If we're not saying the truth, we will never solve the problem. Well, the truth is that there is no Palestinian nation. Try to find a Palestinian history somewhere, you won't find it. There's no, give me a name of a Palestinian poet from the 19th century, for example. There's a very important book, was written by an American journalist in Time and Memorial. It was written by Joan Peters. I suggest and urge everybody who listens to us to find that book and read it and understand what I'm talking about. There is no Palestinian nation, and they never wanted a Palestinian state. They're Arabs, and Arabs lived in the Middle East for thousands of years, and the concept of the modern national state is irrelevant for them. It was forced on them after World War I, during the agreement of Sykes-Picot, those who know the history. And today what we see in the Middle East is basically the Arab nation going back to its original way of life, to its original existence. No states. The concept of state is a modern concept, and it does not fit into the Islamic culture. So that's why those countries, first Egypt, Libya, and Algeria, and now Syria, they simply coming to an end because it does not fit their culture. Those who call themselves Palestinian never really looked to become a state. Do not forget that before the 67 war, the 6 Days War, they were sitting all over those territories that they asked for from the Israelis today to give them, and they did not create a state on those territories because that is not what they're looking for. All they're looking for is to destroy the Jewish sovereignty in the Promised Land, the Jewish sovereignty in Israel. That is what we see. There's nothing else over here. So when you're asking me how to solve the problem, we should understand that dividing the land will never change anything. They had already those territories that they're asking to have now in order to solve the problem, and they created the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, when they sat on those territories and wanted to fight to destroy Tel Aviv. It is not about the Green Line. It is about their will to destroy Israel. So the question is, what are we going to do? First of all, we should annex the land completely and put a full Israeli sovereignty all over those territories that gave away by God to the Jews 3,000 years ago. That is first of all. That includes Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Hebron. You know, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were buried in Hebron, not in Tel Aviv. It is our land and our land only. So that is first of all. Now those Arabs, and again I'm saying Arabs, not Palestinians, because that's a lie. Those Arabs who are willing to live with us, not fighting with us, should have all their human rights, but not a civilian rights. That is a concept we cannot agree with. They should have all their human rights. And another thing that we should understand, they're not looking for civilian rights. It is not what they're looking for. The Western world created 22 Arab countries. Show me one of them that have democracy. This concept has nothing to do with their culture, and it is not what they're looking for. Those who want to stay here should be welcome to stay, but with human rights, meaning you cannot harm them, you cannot take away their property, you cannot do to them nothing of what we did to ourselves just 6-7 years ago in Gush Katif. Those who want to leave, and most of them who want to leave according to their own surveys, we should help them. Israel invests in the concept of dividing the land. Since the Oslo agreement in the last 19 years, almost $1 million in every Arab family. And this money we keep on pouring into this false concept of Palestinian state. Israel should invest that money in helping those Arabs who wish to leave and find a better future somewhere else, invest that money on that direction so the next generation will have peace and not war. By the way, this concept of solving a conflict between nations always succeeded. It was usually done during history in moving people from that's having wars generation after generations, moving them from one land to the other, it is the only concept that really worked. I can give you only one example. The World War II started because of 6 million Germans that lived in the Sudets, lived in Czechoslovakia. Hitler said he should get those lands because there are Germans over there. Well, he got that land, and we all got World War II. After the war, when 70 million people were paid with their life because of that war, after that war, the Western world told those 6 million Germans, with all due respect, and those Germans lived in the Sudan for 3-4 generations, not like the so-called Palestinians that lives here much, much less. Well, the Western world told those Germans, with all due respect, you should move into Germany, and that solved the problem. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm talking about a long process, 10, 15 years, helping those who are willing to leave, who wishing, who longing to leave anyhow, not by force, helping them financially, putting the world mind and money to really solve the problem, and not just give, talking about peace process and dividing the land, coming again with those solutions that only leading to more and more wars.
Okay, now, as far as the amount of money you're talking about, I saw somewhere that it was written that you're talking about $500,000 per family. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, and I'm not talking about taking it out of the American budget or the Israeli budget. What I'm saying is that this kind of money is the money that we're spending anyhow on the false concept of solving the problem, that we're not trying to think out of the box, not trying to think different ways. We should understand, first of all and above all, that the land of Israel belongs to Jews and the Jews only. That is the first concept. When you don't understand that, you will always have war. Israel should understand that. Americans should understand it. The whole world should understand that. Now, because we don't understand that concept, we spending money on fences, on anti-missiles, anti-rockets, and all kinds of technologies that are very nice, but totally not needed and cost a lot of money. And I should have said it to begin with, we're spending money. Israel sends to Gaza every month trucks loaded of cash, of shekels. When you're taking all the money that we're spending anyhow on basically keeping the situation as it is and not solving the situation, you find out that since the Oslo process started, we already spent Arab family in Yehuda v'Shomron, what you call Palestinians, we already spent at least $750,000 per family, and we keep on spending it. So I'm not talking about giving them more money to leave, just
redirected, right,
to a real solution and not to a false solution.
So are you talking about Palestinians that might be occupied lands, or are you talking about any Palestinians that sort of want to move out of that part of the region?
Arabs that will decide that it's about time to start new life in a place that he will not find himself in a conflict between people that speak same language. Any other place on the globe, Israel should help that process and aisle the budget that goes today to actually continue the war to an aisle of peace.
Okay, so just to get a summary, your plan is that Israel would control the land, but Palestinians could live on the land. They just wouldn't have civil rights, which I guess would mean they wouldn't be able to vote. What other civil rights would they not have that an Israeli would have?
Voting rights, that's all.
Okay, and everything else, they can own property, they can do business, they can work, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then anybody who doesn't like that in the occupied land or in Palestine, you would give them $500,000 to relocate and be on their way. I'm
not saying giving in cash $500,000. I'm saying that we have the budget to invest that kind of money to help. It can be, part of it can be in a direct cash aid, and other can be by, for example, helping buying the property, helping finding jobs in different countries, and so on. I'm saying that money should be invested towards that direction.
Okay, it sounds like it's getting a little foggy there. I mean, if you're giving somebody $500,000 cash, I think they're going to pay attention.
I'll tell you what I mean. For example, somebody needs help. He's saying, yes, I'm looking to leave, but I don't know if I can find a job and where to. So just as Israel investing a lot of money on bringing Jews to Israel, and that money is not all going directly to these people's pocket. It goes to create jobs. It goes to bring them here. It goes to the whole system that helped them come. It's the same thing. Part of that money should be direct to those who need the money to start a new life. Smaller part of that money should be to develop the system that simply helps those Arabs who want to leave.
What kind of reaction are you getting in Israel in general with your plan?
You'll be surprised of how many letters I got from Arabs that agreed with me.
Okay. Now, what about the Israelis?
I was surprised to see how many Israelis were willing to start to think different, out of the box, to think of the real solution. As I explained before, when it's always, you need the courage to start saying the truth, and then more and more people joining you.
Very interesting, Moshe. I just want to throw one more neoconservative name out to you. I mean, we know you know who Alan Dershowitz is. You don't know who Bill Kristol is. Does Sheldon Adelson ring any bells? Do you recognize that name?
Yes.
We have to have you on again because I know you want to make the shekel convertible into gold, and I need to talk to you about that.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Moshe. It's been very interesting. Thank you for listening to the Robert Wenzel Show. This is Robert Wenzel. Be sure to check out my website, economicpolicyjournal.com, where I blog 7 days a week about economics, finance, politics, and liberty. Executive producer of the Robert Wenzel Show is Chris Rossini. Head of editing and mastering is John Daubert.